The main six are the six that are on screen here. And then I think the interesting thing here about Tre Harris in particular is that Greg Roman kind of compared his usage to Joshua Palmer previously, where he can play X, he can play Z, he can play slot. He said he can play all three positions. They're going to try and figure out how that goes. But he said initially they think his primary role is actually going to be as a Z receiver, not as an X receiver. Obviously, things can change. They've only had 2 days of training camp practice together. But what did you make of his comment about comparing him to Palmer and maybe emphasizing the Z spot initially here?
Yeah, he said, Palmer was mostly a Z and then sometimes would work in at X last year. In terms of Tre Harris having that role, that makes a ton of sense. Like they let go of Josh Palmer, they draft a receiver in Tre Harris. All that makes sense. He can play Z, he can play X, he'd be a big slot. That's fine. I think the part that's a bit of a holdup for me is, okay, Tre Harris at Z can make sense to me. That does make sense to me. Okay, then Quentin Johnston's your X. Yeah. And that to me doesn't seem like the best fit. Now, does everyone just play one role, one side of the football, one thing, that's it? No, of course you can mix and match it. It sounds like, at least with Tre Harris, they're going to do that. But, when Greg Roman was asked, like, okay, who specifically is going to be like the X? Like, who is just your X options there? He mentioned Quentin Johnston and Tre Harris. And if Tre Harris's initial role is more so at Z, you do enough math, a little subtraction here and there, that leaves Quentin Johnston as your X. Yeah. So will he be the primary X? Will he be the primary X all year? I don't know. TBD. We'll see. Could vary by game. Depends on how Tre Harris is, catching up to things as well. But, Tre Harris at Z, I like. Quentin at X then, I don't like. But we'll see how much they mix and match moving forward.
So number 38, who I missed, is DeLavion Campbell. I honestly couldn't tell you who that is, to be honest.
Well, I wish him luck.
Yeah, good luck. Hey, got some first team reps with Justin Herbert, so unfortunately he wasn't able to take advantage. But yeah, not great. I think part of this is the Chargers trying to kind of ease Tre Harris into things, trying to figure out where exactly they want him. I like that he said that they think he can play all three spots and they can move him around. He didn't get to show that a ton this past year at Ole Miss, but when you go back and watch some of the 2023 stuff, he is getting reps in the slot. He is getting reps on the backside, front side, everything like that. I don't know what led them to be, a little bit more rigid in 2024 with Lane Kiffin. That's usually not the case. But I do think Tre Harris can play all three spots, which I like. I would very much like to see him get some slot opportunities, especially just be able to get his big body, into some slant opportunities, some red zone opportunities from the slot. I think is a really, nice usage there. He did also mention that Jalen Reagor and Keandre Lambert-Smith are getting some X snaps as well. Their body types are just not, they're not X receiver material. Like, can they do it from time to time? Sure. He compared Keandre Lambert-Smith to Brandon Lloyd today, which I think is an interesting comparison. I would think of
specific.
Just because Brandon Lloyd was like such a vertically inclined receiver from like a jump ball standpoint.
Sure.
And that's not really what I think of with Keandre Lambert-Smith, but he coached both of them, so he would know better than I think. But I think the Chargers are really just going to try and settle this rotation down going forward. But I agree with you. I think QJ, his best role is as a Z, where he can kind of, do some of the crossing routes, posts, corners, things like that, drags, deep overs, as opposed to being a true X receiver and, running back shoulder fades, go balls, things like that. I don't think that's his best route.